Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining me. I had a little issues the past couple of days, so I haven't been able to do this in a timely manner. I do apologize for that. I said I would have this podcast uploaded by 11 p.m. on Sunday, but we all have family and we all have to take care of our family because we ain't nobody if we can't take care of our family. And family always comes first, and that's what I was doing. So, let's get on with the show. I hope everybody's doing well. Um, hope everybody's having a good week. Uh, some hot topics out there right now about what might be happening in WWE. Stone Cold Steve Austin possibly wrestling Kevin Owens at WrestleMania might not exactly be a rumor. That might actually be happening. And, well, we'll get my thoughts on that another time. So, the first match I wanted to touch on was Kevin Nash versus Goldberg from 1999, Starrcade. It's different when you watch it back. Growing up, I was a huge Bill Goldberg fan because he's from Tulsa, and I got to see him live a couple times at the Expo Square Pavilion. That was one place, and then I also saw him at the Tulsa Convention Center. Uh, so I loved seeing the guy from Tulsa go undefeated against everybody that he went up against. And as an adult, I've learned things about Goldberg that's made me enjoy his character a lot less, to the point where I actually despise Goldberg, and I hate saying that. His attitude about being in the WWE Hall of Fame was the first thing that made me realize that I'm no longer a fan of Bill Goldberg. And then, of course, he had to win the Universal Championship from Kevin Owens, which also put me in a frenzy. So watching the Nash versus Bill Goldberg match is really different as an adult because, I'm no longer cheering on the hero slash monster going into the match. I'm cheering for the heel. A lot of fans started to see the cracks in the armor, and we're already thinking to ourselves, maybe we don't need this undefeated streak. We just need somebody to beat it. But the match between Nash and Goldberg is a little underwhelming. There isn't much to it, in my opinion. Honestly, it's boring as fuck. Uh, but it's effective nonetheless. At no point does Bill Goldberg really feel like the dominant force in the match, or even the face of the company. And when you're the world heavyweight champion, and you don't really feel. I'm talking about from the fans' perspective, when they don't really feel like the face of the company because that streak is kind of worn off. You know, he may have this awesome streak, but we want something different. The camouflage has smeared away, and his true colors are really there. As far as like his Hall of Fame speech was concerned, it just seemed really arrogant to me. And nobody wanted this undefeated streak to end except maybe Goldberg. And I really don't care who booked the match or why they booked it or how they booked it, how the match was won, although controversially is fun to watch because one of my all-time favorites, Scott Hall, gives Goldberg the taser and puts him down, thus giving the jackknife powerbomb to Goldberg by Nash, followed by a pinfall victory over the undefeated Goldberg. Um, I was 17 at the time, and I was happy to see Bill Goldberg lose that World Heavyweight Championship to Nash when I look back on it. I'm glad somebody ended that son of a bitch's streak. All right, so let's go on to Jerry Lawler versus Bret the Hitman Hart in their Kiss My Foot match. My favorite parts in the match first came when Jerry the King Lawler utilized the steel steps to his advantage on the outside of the ring, which led to the King dominating the match for a short while. He mocked the fans for a while and got his cheap pops. The King got Bret Hart in the first pile driver, but didn't bother with a pin, a second pile driver, and no pin attempt. He tries to get a rise out of the crowd for a third pile driver and is successful, yet he takes his time continuing to mock the crowd. And then he tries a nonchalant pin on the Hitman. You gotta love the King's heel work. I honestly think he tried to do more entertaining the crowd than he was trying to continue with the match, although he did a great job of being a heel. Because just when Bret thought he had the upper advantage, he didn't. And Lawler took advantage of that every situation he got. Um, the King and his nonchalant pins and his great heel work incited the crowd. And, well, he wasn't the one who got his foot in Bret Hart's mouth. It was the other way around. But the crowd incited the King to put the Hitman's foot in his own mouth. And Bret Hart found a way to fight back with some resiliency. Lawler got a combination of elbows to the skull, but gave the Hitman a smack in the face with his own foot for his own efforts, which I believe was followed up by a diving fist drop. The King tried for another low blow cheap shot on the Hitman with the grapevine around the ring post, but the Hitman countered and tried to assert his dominance while Hakushi began to interfere in the match. Despite Hakushi having interfered in the match, the Hitman set up Jerry the King Lawler for pain infliction from a number of assaults. Once the Hitman got the sharpshooter in on the King, it was over. The King did not try to hang on, but he did hang on. I think it was like maybe, God, it wasn't very long. Like he was hanging on for dear life, it seemed, and he just gave up too quickly. He really did. He just gave up too quickly. And although Bret Hart got his ass handed to him for most of the match, and he still came up with a victory. And in the end, Jerry the King Lawler suffered the agony of defeat. And as the King was lying there on his back on the mat, the Hitman stuck toes deep in Jerry Lawler's gullet. And if you don't remember how the match ended, Bret Hart made Jerry Lawler kiss his own foot by turning the King into a pretzel. He just kind of turned him into one and just ate him, put his own foot in his mouth. It was incredible. So, which match am I doing next? Jake the Snake Roberts versus Rick Martel. I'm going to do that one. Now, as a fan, I'm not watching this match back. I'm enjoying it as a fan still and not making play-by-play analysis along with this review. Number one, because it's technically not a wrestling match, because both men are blindfolded. The model had decent heat going into the event, and Jake Roberts was white hot. The crowd worked for Jake. They told him what to do. He'd point, and the crowd reacted. This got me thinking, this could still work today. This type of match, this type of scenario, WWE or any promotion for that matter, could make this type of a match work because of the fans. WWE doesn't need to stick to any kind of formula that works anymore because why do that? So let's take somebody like Drew McIntyre. Have him feud with Ridge Holland into WrestleMania. That sounds like that's the way it's going, right? Let's say Ridge attacks Drew during their match that causes Drew to go face first into something that will cause the cinematic sparks. And Sheamus, out of kayfabe, reacts to this. And he goes to Drew's aid, making the impact seem real. Because we know that Sheamus is real friends with Drew McIntyre. Drew returns on the Titantron one night with thick sunglasses on, like the ones you get after you get dialysis in your eyes. And he claims that he's lost 20% vision in his left eye, 10% in his right eye. I think I went completely wrong there. Either way, and he also has a concussion to boot, which sidelines him maybe 2 weeks till WrestleMania. Drew challenges Ridge to a match at Mania, to a blindfold match. The crowd loves Drew, and this type of formula would work in this type of situation. Jake versus Martel, honestly, it's one of my all-time favorite gimmick matches because I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I absolutely love Jake the Snake Roberts. And I love the model Martel's heel work. He was just a great heel. The match is still a classic, and it stands the test of time for any wrestling fan. So let's do Razor Ramon versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 10. Now, as a fan, anytime I watch this back, I don't consider myself watching the match back for review. I'm always watching the match as a fan because I love Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels both. The latter match at WrestleMania 10 symbolized just how these two thoroughbreds could go. No other match had been seen like it in the WWE before that night. Its competitors were fierce and determined to win the Intercontinental Championship gold. The fierce back and forth battle between bitter enemies who were also best buddies at the time make the grand spectacle of WrestleMania all that much better and bittersweet. Although we may not have known it at the time, Shawn Michaels and Razor Ramon being best friends and traveling the roads together, I would have loved to have been a fly on the wall the night after the famous ladder match at WrestleMania 10 between those competitors. The Showstopper and the Bad Guy are my two. They're up there. They have to be on the Mount Rushmore for me of the greatest wrestlers of all time. I still have not seen a match that compares to the ladder match at WrestleMania 10 to this very day, and I don't think I ever will. Every time I watch it, I'm in awe. I'm in awe of the performances of both men, both warriors. They both went out in the middle of that ring and they put it all on the line for a shot at championship glory. When I think of the greatest WrestleMania matches of all time, the ladder match from WrestleMania 10 stands out among every one of them as the number one match in my mind. It's hard to want to call the match like I was reviewing some of the other matches that I've done, but as a fan, you just want to talk about how awesome the match was and how awesome wrestling could be again if we had polarizing characters such as Razor Ramon and Shawn Michaels to this day. I did one other video. I was kind of in the middle of doing this podcast and, of course, having to deal with my own issues. And so I'm glad I finally got to do this tonight because I wanted to start uploading my videos by 11:59 p.m. every Monday night. I said I was going to do it on Sundays, but the weekends kind of gear me towards being around family and helping them as much as I can, and we all need to be that way. And just love each other, be there for each other, and be supportive because you never know what someone's going through. So thank you guys for watching. I love each and every one of you. I hope you'll watch some more of my podcasts, and I hope each and every one of you have a great week. Thank you for watching.